At the beginning of June, Russia attacked the Kakhovka Dam. What are the short and long-term consequences of such actions? Why does Russia now threaten to attack the nuclear power plant it has been controlling for months? And what Ukrainians were shocked about when the world started to discuss this terrible tragedy? You're listening to the Solutions from Ukraine podcast, which is brought to you by the Rubryka media outlet. My name is Vladyslav Faraponov. I'm the co-host of this podcast. And before we start, let me remind you that you can support us at Patreon, at patreon.com/Rubryka. After you join us at Patreon, you'll be able to send us questions that we can address in the podcast, or you can also get a merch with solutions and Ukraine, of course. Usually I present my co-host Anastasia at this point, but today it will be on my own. So today we will try to talk about solutions, but it will be quite hard. The topic is even quite challenging for our team, and we have several people from Kherson, but it would be quite hard to talk about it for them. So the shock is still in the hearts and minds in Ukraine, and so within our team as well. So the Kakhovka Dam in Ukraine was destroyed in the early hours of June 6 this year, and causing extensive flooding among the lower Dnieper River, Ukraine's largest river. The dam was under the control of the Russian military, and it seized it from the early days of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The dam was under Russians' control since the early days of late February of last year. So at the time when Russians actually got control of the vast majority of the Kherson region, they also seized the Kakhovka Dam. So just for you to understand, the dam was around 30 meters tall. It's about 98 feet and 3.2 kilometers, which is approximately 2 miles long. The destroyed part of the dam was about 85 meters, around 280 feet, and the tragedy caused the average level of flooding in the entire region to be about 5 meters. And the dam was, and I'm saying it was on purpose because it does not longer exist. It was in Nova Kakhovka, almost 90 kilometers, which is around 55 miles from Kherson. So Kherson was the only regional city that Russia seized last year, and the Nova Kakhovka is still under Russian occupation. And we have to understand that the Dnieper River, again Ukraine's largest river, and in some parts of Ukraine it's quite long, and so it kind of right now it divides the parties. It divides the territory that is under Ukrainian control after the successful counteroffensive in the south, which ended, but I would say which paused by the liberation of Kherson in November of 2022. But at the same time, the left bank, as we call it, of the Dnieper River is still under Russian occupation, and it is still the large part of the Kherson region. So why this topic and why the Kakhovka Dam is so significant? So this water system, this reservoir, it used mainly to supply other hydroelectric stations, their irrigation systems nearby, industrial plants such as the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, which is still under Russian control. It allowed also to have like the entire region actually having like fresh water for their fish farms and others. And also the Kakhovka Dam, like it was the condition to have water in Crimea. So the Kakhovka Dam was connected with the so-called North Crimean Canal, which supplies, as I mentioned before, which supplies water into occupied Crimea. So what's the problem? The destruction of the dam in Nova Kakhovka is a war crime under the Geneva Convention, and it is considered to be a weapon of mass destruction. And unfortunately, Ukrainians have been observing it in this month, and every day after that tragedy, we still get news about it, and we'll talk about it a bit later. So this is a real ecological disaster for the south of Ukraine and the Black Sea region as a whole. I just came back from Mykolaiv, my home region, and I was there just a week after the level of water in two of Mykolaiv rivers was up for more than 1 meter. So you can imagine that the consequences of this, if the water will be at least 2 meters up, are really unimaginable. But the city of Kherson was basically the first one among major cities which was captured by water, and I cannot say it differently because Rubryka's reporter basically went there to see it firsthand, and the entire city, it's 80%, I believe, it was underwater. Rubryka's reporter basically was one of the first among Ukrainian media outlets in Kherson, and you can find a lot of our materials online. Basically, when you type Rubryka and for example Kherson, and you'll see several exclusive reportages about it, and I personally recommend this one, How Kherson Lives on the Fourth Day of the Great Flood. We'll post the link to the description, and you'll be able to find it, but still, pictures can describe a lot, but probably it's not the case at this situation. At Rubryka, we have a special area, like special direction of Rubryka. It's called Eco Rubryka, and basically that is why Rubryka's reporting is so crucial at this time, because we have a network of experts, we have a network of journalists who basically visit our website and see our reporting and stuff like that. So, of course, the first observed consequences were they were all kind of related to shock, and of course, at the very beginning, everyone was trying to help. For example, the Ukrainian company, basically Ukraine's largest company in retailing and post called Nova Poshta, they announced the collection of clothes for people who have just suffered this terrible tragedy, and they delivered really tons of clothes to the people of Kherson region, because like the Kherson was the center of coordination, so to say, and it was kind of the largest city that was under the conditions of, we call it kind of great water. And the Kherson was the center of the coordination, and of course there are like other villages that have suffered, but the consequences were, I would say, most visible in Kherson, because much more people, I would say, used to live there in comparison to some small villages. The secondary consequences, so to speak, include risks of diseases, the spillage of chemicals, pollution with nitrogen and phosphorus compounds, not to mention the garbage, not to mention the unfortunately dead animals underwater. Everything that was on the ground basically was up, and it was underwater, and now it went to the Black Sea, and you cannot even think right now about the real consequences of everything that was supposed to be on the ground, that now almost everything of it is in the Black Sea. So we have also thought about possible delayed consequences, which include dust storms at the territory of the Kakhovka reservoir, because it's now empty. It's just a desert, and especially during the summertime, like it will be a disaster in summer. It will be even more difficult in the fall and others. So this area, which used to provide the entire, like the majority of regions in the south of Ukraine with water, it will be a desert. But our reporter, he told me that the only hope that he was capable of observing was people, of course. Ordinary people, he meant volunteers, of course, in addition to trained staff and rescuers. He also came to Kherson 15 days after the tragedy, when almost everywhere the water was gone. But he said it was even harder to see this because when he went on a boat on the streets, so to say, he was able to see only roofs of the houses. And of course, when now the water is gone, basically one can spot how damaging the water can be. And also, you can imagine like 2 and 3 floor houses were underwater. Sometimes people were on the roof, sometimes animals were there, just to be noticeable that at least they have a chance to be seen. But again, basically what has been visible is people, and especially volunteers. Unfortunately, Russia attacked Kherson many times when the evacuation was conducted. They also attacked the city while President of Ukraine, Zelensky, paid a visit there. And but what Ukrainians were shocked about, among other things, is the slow reaction of international partners, very specific media coverage. I would say that until the US media announced that the Russians did it, that Russians are behind it, there was a lack of clarity, if I may say it quite diplomatically. And Ukraine expected a much faster and more comprehensive reaction in terms of the entire international community, not to mention just its partners, but also humanitarian organizations. And if they're still considering if they should go, probably it's a bit late. Like the Red Cross and the UN didn't even visit Kherson, or at least they didn't communicate about it. And in terms of war, kind of not communicating about it means no actions. And not to mention the villages where there is still a lot of water. But just for the record, it doesn't apply to the Ukrainian Red Cross. They were at the place of scene, and they have been trying to find some solutions, if we may say so, about this tragedy. So what has become different from the day Russia mined the dam is that it has now become official that Russia plans to blow up the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Ukraine's President Zelensky and Kirill Budanov, chief of Ukraine's military intelligence, they both basically warned of a dangerous escalation as the occupiers plan to blow up their nuclear power plant has been drafted and approved. So why is Russia doing so, you may ask? The counteroffensive is going in Ukraine, and the Ukrainian army is pushing Russians back in the south, in the Kherson region as well, in the east of Ukraine, in Donetsk region especially. It is interesting that we are making this episode on the next day when Mr. Prigozhin, head of the private Russian military force Wagner, alleged a coup against Putin's regime, but he basically had halted it the next day. And we should also learn some lessons from the previous cases when Russians said that they would not do something, and after some time they basically did it. And it's the same about the so-called kind of referendums about the 4 regions of Ukraine incorporating with Russia last year, and now they basically attacked the Kakhovka Dam, which basically President Zelensky and his team were also communicating about their entire second half of last year. It is quite understandable that it is about Ukraine in the global context, and such disasters which Russia and Russians are capable of, they will have an impact not only on Ukraine but on other states and on other regions. And if we do not take those threats seriously, we cannot act differently anytime soon. And it is the lesson number one, and perhaps one of the most important lessons that Ukraine would like to share, especially right now with the world, when again Russia basically even does not deny that they have mined the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, which can result in unbelievable tragedy for the entire world, and of course especially Eastern Europe. So you can find more episodes of the podcast at Rubryka tallied.com or your favorite podcast provider. Solutions from Ukraine, where we discuss and issues from Ukraine, and also the people are doing something about them. So stay with us and remember to support us at patreon.com/Rubryka. Your support helps us produce more independent podcasts and reporting, which will result in more help for Ukraine to win this hard but important war.